I figured most of you are already bored with seeing me post about shield builds, and many of you probably just don't even really have that much interest in them. Today I got a build for you that's not about shield builds. And basically it's just after days of grinding, I finally managed to get a working combination for this the other night. Basically just a max hazard, max explosive resistance PvP type build. I'm not really a fan of the up close fighting style, but for those who are, you might actually want to give this a try. Especially if you have ever been in that position where you're about to complete like an armor repair and that seeker comes out of nowhere and basically just drops you. So if you like the build, please consider dropping a like, leaving a comment, and subscribing. That'll really help me with the channel. So I went into this build wanting to do three things: ignoring the most common enemy skills, ignoring three-piece Negotiator's Dilemma, and basically just not dying to clutch every time as a tank build. Alright, so taking a look at the build, you can see here I'm using the Technician Specialization, and that's mostly just for the 50% skill power bonus that you get. Basically it just allows me to use less skill power rolls on my actual gear. So I don't need a max skill power on my chest or my holster to actually get a very strong working skill power. Basically it just means I can invest more into red rolls and I can invest a lot more into blue rolls. Then I also have the 10% skill healing talent, which basically just gives me a little bit extra for my drone. Alright, so moving into my actual equipment here. I'm using a P416 basically just for the Optimist and Allegro. You've probably seen this weapon a lot on my builds. I happen to like this piece, but I have recharged on there for a lot of my skill builds. And then obviously for my mods, I've got accuracy, I've got the 20 rounds, I've got accuracy, and then another stability. For my second piece, I'm using the Chatterbox, and that's pretty much just for the Blabbermouth talent to give me a 15% rate of fire bonus whenever I get a kill and reload. But the weapon itself is actually pretty good against NPCs, just because when I'm shooting an enemy up close and I'm getting the the magazine capacity back, it pretty much just keeps me from running out of ammo. So I can, as long as I'm firing and hitting a target, I don't have to worry about running low on ammo like I would if I was using just my assault rifle. Alright, so moving into my mask, I've got my Fenris for the 10% assault rifle damage. I've got my first ever 50% hazard protection roll modified on there. But it also comes with a native 279 skill power, which is really good, especially when I have the empowered for 20%, which gives me 70% skill power total with this build. Moving on to my chest piece, obviously it's a fairly low gear score, 476, but it's one of those pieces where I just never wanted to get rid of it. 20% skill haste really isn't that important, so there is a possibility to actually have a better chest piece quite easily. I would probably actually go with Gilla, but you can use whatever you want, whatever actually rolls the way that you need it to. I like this piece because it comes with 13% weapon damage and it has the 44k armor on it. Plus it also has Bloodsucker, which is what I use to counter clutch with. Now it actually, it's a 50-50 if it's going to work or not. Generally speaking, if they get the first shot, and they break your armor before you break theirs, they're probably going to win. But if you break their armor first, you're usually going to win the fight. Also, I choose this because it has 2 defensive and a utility, and as you can see here, I've got 20% explosive resistance for my 2 mods, and then I've got over 270 skill power for my drone. Moving into my holster, I've got the Negotiator's Dilemma. I'm basically using the 2-piece for the 30% explosive resistance. Also, I've got a fairly strong skill power roll on here, and I've rolled even more health onto it, so it makes me, incredibly tanky versus red rolls, which basically just add crit, which crit isn't really that beneficial unless you stack it heavily. So without having to stack that heavily, I can invest a lot more into survivability. Basically, I got the defensive mod slot for 12% explosive resistance, and I've also got another utility roll for over 270 skill power for my drone. Alright, so moving on to my knees, I'm using the Gilla, basically just for the 2 blue mod slots. But it's got 9.5% total armor. I could probably roll that up to 12% if I really felt like doing it. But it's also got 30% hazard protection from insulated. And then as you can see here on my 2 defensive mods, I have two pretty good explosive resistance ones, so for 16%, plus I've got the 2.5% total armor on both of them, and the armor roll as well. Moving on to my gloves. Again, Negotiator's Dilemma, just for that second piece. But I've rolled assault rifle damage on here, so I have 12%. And then I've got a little bit of skill power for 191. But again, it also comes with a defensive mod slot for armor, explosive resistance, and total armor. And then moving on to the last piece, my backpack. Another Gila, and that gives me the 20% total hazard protection extra, which basically just caps me out and gives me that 100% hazard protection that I'm looking for. But it's also got a really nice armor roll, really nice modified roll there. Tiny little bit of weapon damage, but you know, I'll take it. It's got on the ropes. I wish I could get a better one, but it's really hard, obviously, getting exactly what you want. So I prefer on the ropes to be something else, but I have hardened on there, which is highly beneficial. Comes with obviously two mod slots, a utility and a defensive. So that gives me another utility mod for over 270 skill power on my drone, and then a defensive mod slot for a little bit extra explosive resistance just to cap me off at 90%. All right, so basically for the skills that I'm using the Artificer Hive, and that basically just, you know, constantly buffs my skills and repairs them. And I'm teaming that with my Fixer drone, which, because of my skill power, has, you know, almost over 90% armor repair, and it's got a good amount of skill haste. So it only takes less than 30 seconds if it gets destroyed. It's less than 15 seconds if I actually just destroy it myself, which is really nice. You can see the PvP healing is 12k, but as far as my testing goes, it looks like when you team it with the Artificer Hive, it actually doubles the healing rate of some of the skills. It varies based on skill, and I haven't quite tested out all the mechanics of it yet. But so far, it appears to be about a 100% healing bonus buff. Now, again, I'm not entirely sure because obviously I can't see exact numbers. I can just see little bars on the screen. It looks like it's a doubling of that effect. So that's, you know, makes the drone really good because it never goes on cooldown unless it gets destroyed or disrupted. It is constantly healing me for a significant amount, and basically, you know, just following me around, so I don't have to actually think about, you know, using something. I don't have to drop the chem launcher. I don't have to drop the hive. I don't have to, you know, stand still in a healing circle for my seeker mine. It basically just allows me to continue the fight without actually having to worry about the skill, which is basically why I'm using it. All right, so from there, I'll just move into my stats real quick just so you guys can see what's going on. You can see here with my P416, I'm hitting at 20k, which isn't the greatest, but for a tank build, I'll take it, you know. And basically, just to break it down, you know, you can see that I've got 14% all weapon damage from the chest and the backpack, and I've got 37% assault rifle damage. That's mostly from the specialization and from the gloves. And then basically, you know, the main focus of my build, my defensive stats, 428,000 armor, which isn't the highest you can get, but it's definitely a nice significant amount to have. But obviously, like I said, the main focus of this is to ignore explosive damage and to ignore hazard damage. So I've got the 90% explosive resistance and the 100% hazard protection. So basically, I don't have to worry about skills, you know, as much, and I don't really have to worry about status effects, ever. All right, guys, that'll do it for me. I hope you enjoyed the build. I hope it gives you some ideas. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.